Previously, on my top 10 lists. Let me know what your top 10 things of 2024 were. See you next year, I guess.
See you next year, I guess. See you next year, I guess.
Yeah, I don't really know who uploads one of these things in the middle of the next year, but here's my top 10 list of things I played and watched in 2025. 2025 was a weird year for me. I finished my schooling, played some interesting games, had some tough conversations, and watched a lot of really good television. While it was a great year for gaming as a medium, it was a pretty middling year of gaming for me again. Lots of interesting games, but not a lot that really hooked me. So, with introductions out of the way, Number 10. Exoprimal. Exoprimal's premise was mashed together for me specifically. It's robots versus dinosaurs being set against each other by a weird AI with a wacky mystery underlining the whole thing. The mech suits you play as are all pretty cool with unique playstyles, and the story is simple but fun. Where this game really shines is in its final waves and raid missions. The first time you watch a portal open up and a literal waterfall of dinosaurs pours down over a skyscraper, you know this game has something special going on. Battling waves of dinosaurs big enough that it takes a full team of 10 players to survive them, or facing giant monsters that require coordination and positioning to defeat are huge highlights. Exoprimal says what it is in its trailer and delivers on that fantasy. I only wish Exoprimal made more sense as a video game. But for whatever reason, it's formatted as this confused PvPvE objective race where 80% of the time you don't even get to see the other team, except in some matches where you have to fight them directly at the end, and on the very rare occasion that you actually get to face a raid boss. Its matchmaking is a mess, and when you're stuck in lobbies full of bots, the experience weakens considerably. On top of that, most people are going to bounce right off of it because its initial gameplay loop feels like the same 3 objective maps over and over and over again. The game requires multiple hours of the most basic missions before it begins unlocking other game modes, but it doesn't tell you that. If I hadn't watched another video about Exoprimal, I'd absolutely have given up on it before reaching its better parts. Had Exoprimal focused on its PvE elements, and not cost $60 with microtransactions, I could easily have seen it becoming a gaming staple in the same lane as Left 4 Dead 2. It pains me how messy of an experience Exoprimal is because it's so close to greatness, and like I said, it was practically made for me. Number 9. Makeway. I'd never have expected this wacky little game to have snuck up on me, but every time I've played it this year, I've had an absolute blast. Makeway is essentially Ultimate Chicken Horse with toy cars instead of animals. Every round, each player picks a track piece or some kind of obstacle, and then everyone builds the track together. Then they race, gaining points for each checkpoint they pass and whether they come in first place at the very end. It's a simple formula and it works well. I think what really makes Makeway work is its driving controls. They ride the perfect balance of feeling like you're in control while also being just slippery enough that everyone is bound to mess up along the way. My only gripes with the game are how the camera doesn't work well with loop-de-loops, and how you can't remove track pieces from the item pool. Aside from that, Makeway is about as perfect as a party game gets. Number 8. Game Changer Season 7. Game Changer is probably my favorite show on Dropout. It's chaotic and sincere and creative and just plain hilarious. And this latest season has continued to up the ante into all new realms of game show absurdity. From its very first episode this season, the ideas were pretty crazy. Giving each contestant one real-life year to accomplish a strange set of goals and checking in afterwards? Incredible. Hosting a fake episode just to set the benchmark for the real episode right after? Inspired. I had so much fun watching this season of Game Changer. While there were a couple that fell flatter for me, this show is still genuinely some of the funniest TV I've ever watched, and I don't know how they'll top it. Quite frankly, I'd never hold it against them if they didn't. Infinite growth is the mindset of a cancer, and succumbing to it will only lead to the destruction of oneself and everyone around them. It's important for expectations and standards to have a period to settle, lest they expand beyond reasonable limits that require sacrificing that which the goal is to achieve. The demand for infinite Number 7, Kaiju Number 8, Season 2. Kaiju Number 8 continues to be a simple series with a lot of heart behind it. Its second season brings more of the likable characters and hype action moments that I really liked about the first, and then reaches even higher peaks as Kaiju Number 9's schemes begin taking form. With Kafka's big secret out in the open, the series can step away from the well-trodden secret identity trope and put more focus on some of its other characters as well as just fighting kaiju. After Number 9's fake-out play early in the season, the tension then has time to build as the characters grapple with their loss and begin planning for the upcoming onslaught. This sets up a lot of space for other characters to share the spotlight and gives the Defense Force time to make some interesting decisions. Decisions that get well paid off when an entire wave of new Dai Kaiju take to the scene and the Defense Force has to play its hand. Kaiju Number 8's characters are all pretty simple, but they're all likable. They're fun to cheer for, and with the stakes higher than ever, Kaiju Number 9 has set himself up as a real monster. I can't wait to see more of them all in Season 3. Number 6, Long Story Short. Leave it to the creator behind BoJack Horseman to create such a compelling, uncomfortable, and touching show as Long Story Short, which collects the fractured tales of the Trooper family across several decades into a bit of an anthology. The timeline can jump years between episodes, and as time changes, so do relationships. Each episode follows members of the family as they navigate the ins and outs of everyday life, along with their interpersonal quirks. Stories about everything from raising a family to the COVID pandemic to asking your brother for his sperm. Each Trooper faces life with a different point of view that they've constructed out of their lived experiences. Experiences that we get to see in flashbacks that set up most of the episodes. And by learning about each family member's past, we begin to understand how they became who they are and why they behave the ways they do. Long Story Short was difficult to start. Right off the bat, I had to watch Jen live through one of my worst mundane nightmares. Genuinely, it was so uncomfortable that I nearly gave up on the show right there. But pushing through that, I had a few laughs and watched another episode and then another. And for a while, I wasn't sure where the show was going. Each member of the family was flawed and stubborn and often hard to be around, but the jokes and quick-witted script kept me watching. I wanted to see where this family would go. They were hard to listen to sometimes, but before I knew it, I was fully invested in their lives. Long Story Short is a very honest series about difficult people who genuinely love each other, and it's written with such sharpness and sincerity that I just had to finish it and then talk about it. In the end, I enjoyed my time watching Long Story Short, and I'm excited for the second season to come out. Number 5, Hades 2. Hades 2 continues to carry Supergiant Games' high bar across its music, art, voice acting, and gameplay. Its new characters are interesting takes on the Greek myths, and its returning characters all have new art and new things to say about its story and conflicts. Boasting an all-new set of weapons, new allies, and even more charismatic bosses, Hades 2 goes above and beyond with a whole additional dungeon that doubles the amount of challenges it has to face. The bosses in particular were huge highlights. Scylla and Polyphemus brought delightful banter, not to mention awesome music, to the game, and I don't think Prometheus has ever looked or sounded cooler. Taking the goal of Hades 1 and literally flipping it upside down was a fun twist to the story, and Melinoë proves herself an interesting protagonist with a lot of drive and care for her friends. Giving each weapon additional attacks, adding a mana system, and changing how dashing works brought a new flow to combat that kept it feeling fresh and not like a simple retread of Hades 1. Once I got into the flow of gameplay, Hades 2 had me hooked for several hours at a time. It's truly another showcase of how Supergiant Games knows what they're doing. Unfortunately, where Hades 1 concluded with a feeling of familial reconciliation and accomplishment, Hades 2 stumbled on its way over the finish line. Some bold choices during its finale didn't land well, and to Supergiant's credit, they went back and rewrote what they could. The updated ending gives Melinoë more agency and better lead up to the game's final twist. And while this certainly made the game's ending more satisfying, it didn't make up for how many of the side character stories landed in rather disappointing kind of dead ends. Zagreus was allowed to improve the situations of pretty much every character he interacted with, while Melinoë is left to watch all of her new friends simply accept or come to terms with their often quite literally cursed circumstances. Sometimes the revelations kind of felt like they even happened off screen. So, while Hades 2 still knocks it out of the park in almost every way, I didn't step away from it quite as fulfilled as I was hoping to be. Number 4. Escape from Divinity. Escape from Divinity is an animatic miniseries illustrated and edited entirely by one person. Across 6 real-life years, the artist Toasty shared the story of their characters in 6 incredibly moving animatics. The story is told through perfectly chosen songs with stellar storyboarding and uses of symbolism. I rewatch this series almost regularly and can't think of another miniseries that's inspired me the same way since There She Is. I don't know how Toasty did it, but the series tells what feels like an entire season's worth of story in the span of a single episode, and all of it pays off with just about the same level of impact. The whole thing can be watched here on YouTube, and I beg you to give it a shot. Number 3. Sifu. Okay, check this out. Sifu is a game that just feels cool to play. At a glance, its story is a pretty bare-bones revenge plot, and visually it's clean if a little awkward at times. But where Sifu outshines its competition is in pure gameplay. It's a tight 4 to 5 hour experience that offers you a solid challenge without dragging itself out, and can offer so much more if you choose to stick around. Sifu's combat system has a great flow to it. Every block, parry, and attack feels so intentional and rewarding, and you're constantly making choices whether you're on the attack or the defense. Getting hit is punishing but never frustrating, and getting to absolutely trounce your way through a room full of enemies makes you feel like you could win a fight in real life. When you die in Sifu, your character permanently ages and then gets back up to keep fighting. Every decade he ages decreases his health while increasing his damage. And while this mechanic can sound daunting, the severity of the consequences are nullified when you realize that Sifu is a game meant to be replayed. It's a game about growth through repetition, and it fully embodies that message through its mechanics. When you get hit, it'll knock you down. It's your job to learn from that and get back up, and by repeating this process you'll get knocked down less and less, and you'll get better and better. And eventually, you'll learn the lesson of mercy and forgive the people who murdered your father and achieve ultimate peace at the top of a metaphorical spirit mountain after you die in a fight against your brother. Wait a second. Number 2. Andor. I haven't been invested in the Star Wars universe since like 2015, but let me tell you, Andor is one of the most compelling shows to watch right now. Ironically, when the show was announced, it was probably one of the leading examples of shows that nobody wants. It was primed to be another Glupshido's big adventure coming to DVD and video, but somehow Andor was able to breathe new life into the Star Wars universe like nothing ever has before. The complexities and grit of Star Wars politics has never really grabbed me, but for the first time I've gotten to see just how oppressive the Empire really is. Not on some grand space opera planet-destroying level, but to the everyday people of the universe. On the level of public executions in the square, unjust imprisonment, and genocidal corporate bureaucracy. Andor presents a behind-the-scenes look at how the Empire seized control of the galaxy and the means they took to maintain their grasp. What could have easily been monotonous boardroom meetings and by-the-books exposition is made fascinating through the characters Andor uses to show us this side of its grand-scale science fiction galaxy. And oh man, what a cast of characters. Andor, the guy, not the show, is a compelling character right from the start. He's scrappy, flighty, and owes a lot of people a lot of money, but watching his journey from someone who just wants to get away from his problems into a fully committed, die-hard rebel is a deeply engrossing ride from start to finish. You really learn just how he became so dedicated to the rebellion and what it took to push someone that far. On the other side of the conflict, you have Cyril and Dedra, and I don't know who I want to talk about more. Honestly, even Dedra's boss, Partagaz, is an interesting guy. There are just so many characters that this show manages to spotlight, and you kind of root for all of them, even the ones in the Empire. You kind of hope they realize what they're doing and get out while they can still do some good, and some of them do manage to do some good in the end. I mean it when I say that every character in the show could carry an entire series on their back. But I can't go over every character I liked, or else I'd be here for like an hour. I really like how Andor presents the rebellion. I like that building the rebellion is messy and uncoordinated. I like that it had to be sneaky and difficult. I could say that just as Andor showed how oppressive the Empire was, it equally showed just how hard the rebels had to work to get started. Andor was a truly compelling watch, and I highly recommend it to anyone who's on their last hope regarding the Star Wars franchise. There's still magic to be found there, it's just trapped and being held hostage by a certain empire. The number one spot on my list this year had to go to My Hero Academia's final season. When I say that it was almost literally everything I wanted, I actually mean it. After following this series for 9 real-life years, 1/3 of my life, its finale brought everything to an incredible ending that moved me like nothing else this year. I was sat in front of my computer every Saturday for months, just cheering and crying at my monitor over these goddamn characters and their goddamn character arcs. The animation was stellar, the story was fulfilling, every character got at least a little moment to shine. They played Yusei Run at a pivotal moment. Like man, My Hero Academia surely has its faults. There are lots of fair reasons people don't like this show, but its themes about heroism and redemption just mean the world to me. To me, the ending perfectly conveys that heroism is about so much more than being the strongest and beating the bad guys. It's about saving people, inspiring action in others, and building up those around you to pass the torch to. No one person can save the world forever, everyone needs help eventually, and that's an incredible thing to me. I also love that the villains get to be people without washing away all their villainy. Almost every villain is someone who fell between the cracks and who couldn't find a way out. That at their cores they were all human, all fragile, fallible people who found a warped community in each other where they didn't have to be alone. And while that didn't absolve them of guilt, it didn't reduce the harm they've done. It's so important to see and remember how they got there, because that's how you'll be best equipped to stop others from following the same path. People like Dabi and Shigaraki could never be redeemed after all they'd done. They'd spent too long in their hatred to ever be turned around, but it's so crucial that we got to see how they reached those extremes, that we got to see what was important to them and what pushed them over the edge. It's so important to me that we got to see them as more than just big evil villains. And yeah, a fair amount of that happened last season, but driving the point home with All for One really sealed the deal for me. The Demon King himself was shown as the lonely, selfish, and desperate man that started this all. He was still a monster who had to be destroyed in the end, but at one point he was also just a boy, left to fend for himself and his brother who never learned how to really care about other people. I love that Deku didn't save the world just by beating the bad guys. I love that being a hero came to share its pedestal with other jobs, and that regular people were moved to make their society a better place for everyone. I love that the quirkless boy and his playground bully grew up to be saviors of the world because they fought like hell, grew through their failures, and learned to lift each other up. And watching these two come full circle this season was as tear-jerking as it was exhilarating. I genuinely can't communicate how incredible the highs of this season felt for me. And there you have my top 10 list of 2025. I sure took my sweet time getting this one out. But at least I got it out before 2027. Like I said, not a lot of games this year, mostly movies and shows. But hey, I finally have a job now, so maybe next year I can do a top 10 games, who knows? Anyway, you know all the usual YouTube algorithm stuff. Have a good one.